In this Diary of a CEO podcast, Stephen and his guest, Jessie Inchauspé, talk about the importance of understanding how the food we eat impacts our body and health. Jessie is a biochemist and author who teaches people the best hacks to eat right without giving up the foods they love. They discuss how glucose is the body's favorite source of energy, which is used by the brain cells to think, speak, and move. Too much glucose flooding into the body too quickly results in what Jessie refers to as a glucose spike. Jessie talks about the 10 glucose hacks in her book, which include eating food in the right order, moving after eating, and drinking vinegar before eating. Stephen highlights that Jessie's book helps individuals eat everything they love while still maintaining good health. Jessie's interest in this subject comes from her personal health journey, which she discusses in detail. She explains that people are unknowingly eating in a way that is causing many of the symptoms they suffer from on a daily basis, such as poor energy, cravings, acne, bad sleep, and hormonal issues. Jessie's passion lies in helping people clean up their diet and giving them the power and information back to make informed decisions. Jessie shares a personal story of how she learned the hard way that health is the most important thing in the world. She recounts how, at 19, while on vacation in Hawaii, she decided to jump off a 30-foot waterfall like her friends and ended up seriously injured, which was the beginning of her health journey. Following the fall, she experienced intense pain, but could not see anything visibly wrong with her body. It wasn't until she visited an osteopath that she was advised to go to the hospital. There, a scan revealed that one of her vertebrae was broken into 13 pieces, and she was told she could not move until it was fixed to avoid the risk of paralysis. She spent 2 weeks in bed in Hawaii before being flown back to Europe on a medical plane to a clinic in Zurich, where she was not allowed to move for 3 more weeks until the surgery took place. The surgery itself was risky and involved opening her body from the side and back, cleaning up the vertebrae, putting a metal cage in, drilling nails into her spine, and inserting rods with the possibility of perforating a lung. The recovery period after surgery was filled with physical pain and mental struggles. She lost a lot of weight, couldn't move without pain, and had nightmares from the opioids given to her for pain relief. While her physical injuries eventually healed, her brain struggled with the trauma, leaving her feeling like she was in a dream, experiencing panic attacks, and feeling disconnected from her own body. Jessie was experiencing depersonalization, a medical term used to describe losing touch with reality in oneself. She explains how she felt like she was leaving her body and became scared of just existing. However, she eventually realized that if she didn't have her health, she had nothing, and that health was the number one most important thing in life. Stephen relates to this realization, sharing that the pandemic was a wake-up call for him to prioritize his health as well. He believes that life should be lived backwards so that people would always be grateful for what they have. The two also discuss Jessie's book, The Glucose Revolution, which explores the importance of balancing blood sugar to improve overall health. Through her experiences studying mathematics, biochemistry, and genetics, Jessie went on a personal quest to understand how her body functions so that she could feel better and prioritize her health. Jessie Inchauspé speaks on the importance of glucose monitoring, which was discovered when she was working in a genetics company. According to Jessie, how we feel on a daily basis and how quickly we age has much more to do with how we live, such as how we eat, how we move, and our environment. Jessie discovered that her mental health got worse when her blood sugar levels were not steady and balanced. She discovered that when her blood sugar levels were like a roller coaster, she experienced frequent episodes of depersonalization. Jessie wore a glucose monitor for some weeks and discovered that one of the spikes in blood sugar triggered a mental health episode. She studied glucose management for 4 years and wrote a book about it. Jessie discovered that most people who do not have diabetes experience blood sugar spikes without knowing it. Hence, the importance of glucose monitoring transcends diabetes management. The most common symptoms of glucose spikes, according to scientific studies, are cravings for sweet food, which occurs multiple times a day. Stephen asked if the craving for sweet food explains why he always wants another cookie after eating 1 or 2. She explains how sugar and starches increase glucose levels in the blood, activating the craving center of the brain. They emphasize that people shouldn't blame themselves for having cravings, as they are caused by the glucose roller coaster that most people are on due to their diets. This roller coaster happens when people eat things that cause glucose spikes and drops, leading to cravings for something sweet. Inchauspé explains that dopamine, a pleasure molecule, is released in the brain when we eat something sweet, causing a dopamine addiction. This addiction, combined with the glucose roller coaster, is what causes sugar cravings. Inchauspé notes that cutting out sugar completely can make cravings disappear because there are no longer spikes in dopamine addiction going on. Moreover, the hosts and guests discuss how the way humans eat today is not the way nature intended us to consume glucose. In the past, humans consumed glucose in plants and fruits, which were smaller and less sweet. However, through years of breeding, humans have developed plants and fruits that are extra sweet and juicy, causing a significant glucose spike. These sugary foods, combined with the dopamine addiction, are what create sugar cravings. The hosts and guests suggest that instead of blaming the body, we should work in partnership with it to balance our glucose levels. When we learn to balance them, we will see that many symptoms such as cravings, hormonal issues, and irregular energy levels will disappear. They conclude that sugar is everywhere, and the key is to find a balance that works for each individual. One of the most common symptoms of glucose fluctuations is cravings. These can cause unsteady energy levels, leading to fatigue throughout the day. Fluctuations in glucose levels can also affect memory by reducing the efficiency of neurons in the brain, resulting in brain fog. In the long term, glucose spikes have been linked to brain problems such as Alzheimer's, and in females, it has been linked to infertility and polycystic ovarian syndrome. Jessie Inchauspé highlights the need to study glucose levels to keep the brain in optimal shape. Furthermore, fluctuations in glucose levels have a direct link with sleep quality. The more glucose spikes an individual experiences, the less restful and deep their sleep will be. Glucose fluctuations can also affect skin health by causing inflammation, which leads to skin irritations such as acne, eczema, and psoriasis. In addition, the more glucose spikes an individual has, the faster they age. This process is called glycation, and it results in wrinkles and the deterioration of organs such as the heart. According to the World Health Organization, inflammation is considered one of the biggest problems of our century, and 3 out of 5 people in the world will die of an inflammation-based disease. Jessie explains how glucose spikes can lead to short-term and long-term symptoms such as constant hunger, chronic fatigue, poor sleep, brain fog, acne, aging, arthritis, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer risk, and mental health issues. Balancing glucose levels is essential to physical and mental health, and it is comparable to learning about the most important lever in the cockpit of an airplane. It is the base layer of physical and mental health, and learning to balance glucose levels is crucial. Glucose is the body's favorite source of energy, and every cell in the body uses it for energy. Glucose is obtained through eating starchy and sweet foods, such as bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, bananas, cookies, and soda. However, eating too many starchy and sweet foods can cause glucose spikes, which can lead to the symptoms mentioned earlier. Therefore, balancing glucose levels is about finding the right balance between the intake of starchy and sweet foods. She compares the process to overwatering plants, where too much glucose can cause problems, just like too much water can cause plants to drown. Jessie goes on to explain that the body has 3 main processes to look at when glucose is flooded into the system. The first process is the mitochondria, which are responsible for turning glucose into energy. When there is a glucose spike, all the glucose is sent straight to the mitochondria, causing them to shut down and break down. This breakdown increases stress in the body, leading to inflammation, and creates terrain for many diseases to happen, causing fatigue. The second process is called glycation, where increased spikes lead to the faster aging of the body, both inside and outside, causing wrinkles and hardening of the arteries. The third process is where the body releases insulin to get the levels of glucose down. While insulin is helpful in the short term, too much insulin in the long run can cause type 2 diabetes and fertility issues, including polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. PCOS is linked to glucose, and when there are too many spikes, there is more insulin in the female body, leading to higher testosterone levels. Jessie Inchauspé explains that there are certain symptoms associated with PCOS, such as cystic ovaries, missed periods, balding on the head, hair growth on the face, and acne, which are caused by excess testosterone in a female body. To deal with PCOS, it is important to balance glucose levels to bring down testosterone. Insulin, which is responsible for storing glucose in fat cells, muscles, and the liver, plays a crucial role in maintaining glucose levels in the body. When insulin is released into the body, it stores glucose in fat cells and stops its release, making it difficult to lose fat. High levels of insulin can also result in insulin resistance, which leads to type 2 diabetes. Insulin resistance is caused by chronic deployment of insulin, which makes the body less sensitive to insulin, just like coffee, which has an effect on the body the first time it is consumed, but over time the same amount has a reduced effect. This is the reason why Jessie became an investor in Joinzo.com, a company that helps people reduce glucose spikes by up to 75% by eating food in the right order. This method is based on scientific studies, and it allows people to eat everything they love without creating spikes. The right order for eating a meal is veggies first, followed by proteins and fats, and lastly, starches and sugars. For example, if someone has a meal with fish, broccoli, pasta, olive oil, avocado, and a cookie, the order would be broccoli first, then fish, pasta and cookie, and avocado and olive oil. The most important aspect of this scientific study is that the veggies must come first to reduce the glucose levels. People don't necessarily need to wait between foods to eat them in the right order. It's crucial to eat veggies first because they contain fiber, which acts as a superwoman and dramatically affects glucose spikes. If someone starts their meal with veggies, their glucose will be regulated, preventing the concentration of glucose from becoming too high. Jessie noted that when we eat vegetables before a meal, the fiber in those veggies creates a viscous mesh in our upper intestine that reduces the spike in our blood glucose levels after the meal. Jessie added that incorporating a veggie starter into our meals, dressed with olive oil, vinegar, lemon or cheese, can make them more delicious and protect our bodies from unsteady energy levels and afternoon cravings. Furthermore, the host discussed the common habit of speed eating and whether it can impact glucose levels. Jessie acknowledged that she is a speed eater too, but added that slowing down can help flatten the glucose curve. As such, Jessie suggested incorporating a veggie starter before meals to counteract the effects of quick eating. She noted that it could have a more significant impact on glucose levels than eating the same meal slowly. Stephen and Jessie also touched on the age-old advice of counting calories and how most people misunderstand it. They explained that the calorie is a measure of how much heat is required to break down a molecule of food and how scientists first started measuring the calories in food. Jessie Inchauspé explains how she wants people to focus on the molecules in food instead of calories. While measuring calories is a good way to understand the energy value of food, it doesn't provide information about the actual food and its impact on health. Jessie suggests that people should stop calorie counting and instead focus on balancing their glucose levels as a better way of improving their health. She explains how different people could be eating the same number of calories, but the person having glucose spikes will have negative impacts on their physical and mental health. She points out that weight loss achieved through restricted calorie intake might not be sustainable and that reducing quantity of food intake doesn't necessarily improve one's health. Jessie also talks about glucose levels and the importance of having a savoury breakfast instead of a sweet one to regulate it. Stephen shares that he hasn't had breakfast yet and ordered a gluten-free breakfast wrap, but he's hesitant to eat it because he thinks it might affect his energy levels during the conversation. Jessie suggests that some breakfast foods could make one feel tired, and it's better to have a savoury breakfast to maintain the glucose levels. According to Jessie, a healthy breakfast should contain protein, fat, fibre, and some bread or starches for taste. However, for a savoury breakfast that keeps glucose levels steady, anything sweet should be avoided for breakfast except for whole fruit. Inchauspé mentions that fruit has been bred for a long time to be extra sweet and easy to eat, and the fruit we have today is pumped full of sugar. However, despite this sweetness, if someone wants to eat something sweet, whole fruit is still the best option due to the protective fibre contained within it. The problem arises when the whole fruit becomes denatured by blending, juicing, drying or pureeing it. When someone juices a fruit, they remove all the fibre, which is the protective part of the fruit, and leave behind only the sugar. As a result, when someone drinks apple juice, they are drinking all the sugar present in 2 already sweet apples, but in just a few seconds. This causes a massive spike in blood sugar levels, leading to inflammation and other negative effects, just like drinking a can of Coca-Cola. Inchauspé recommends that fruit juice is consumed as dessert and should not be viewed as healthy. Whole fruit refers to a piece of fruit that is not processed and can be found in the supermarket. Inchauspé suggests that if an individual is doing well health-wise, then they don't need to make any changes to their diet. However, if someone is experiencing any symptoms such as hormonal issues or skin problems, they should look at their breakfast and avoid sweet foods such as granolas and breakfast cereals. Inchauspé provides examples of savory breakfast alternatives in her book that can help set an individual's day on a much better path. She has 10 hacks in her book, and Bartlett asks her about the one that he found the most interesting: drinking vinegar before eating. Inchauspé explains that drinking 1 tablespoon of vinegar in a tall glass of water before a meal can reduce the glucose spike of the meal by up to 30% and the insulin spike by up to 20%. The acetic acid in vinegar slows down the breakdown of starches into glucose, and it tells your muscles to soak up glucose when it arrives in your body, reducing the spike of the meal without having to change any part of it. Moving on to hack 8, Bartlett asks Inchauspé about the post-meal walk hack. Inchauspé explains that after eating, muscles need energy to contract, and they look for this energy in the glucose in your bloodstream. By using your muscles for 10 minutes after a meal, some of the glucose from that meal will make its way to your muscles, instead of just creating a spike in your bloodstream. Inchauspé suggests various ways to use your muscles after a meal, such as going for a walk, cleaning your apartment, playing with your dog, going to the gym, or doing calf raises. According to Jessie, one effective way to get muscles, particularly the soleus muscle, to soak up glucose is to do calf raises. Doing calf raises after eating or during work can help to reduce glucose spikes. Jessie believes that consuming sweet foods is not always bad, and therefore she does not eliminate them from her diet. To avoid spikes, she uses different hacks, such as the vinegar hack, which involves diluting vinegar before drinking to help with glucose absorption. She also puts clothing on her carbs, which she explains means adding protein, fat, or fiber to starches and sugars. Additionally, she always ensures to have a protein-centered breakfast, and she prefers savory breakfast, such as 2 egg omelets with feta and tomatoes. For lunch, Jessie includes a big-ass salad with vinegar dressing, spinach, quinoa, salmon, avocado, cheese, among other ingredients. She also loves sweet foods, and therefore she indulges in them in the afternoon and goes for a walk or uses her muscles to reduce the impact. In the evening, she has a long meal which includes a veggie starter, protein, and pasta. She also emphasizes the importance of protein-centered breakfast to boost energy levels throughout the day. Jessie suggests avoiding sweet breakfast foods, including granola, and opting for foods with protein, such as eggs and avocado. She emphasizes that it's not about cutting everything out, but about organizing foods in a way that helps keep glucose levels steady. She simplifies her message by encouraging people to learn the glucose hacks and then just eat everything you love. They also debunk the myth that sugar gives you energy, when in fact it only provides pleasure from dopamine. Jessie's mission is to make glucose hacks as well known as other fundamental principles like drink water or brush your teeth. Through proper nutrition and health, Jessie has gone through her own health journey and wants to share her knowledge with as many people as possible. Jessie urges listeners to understand that sugar is not synonymous with energy and can lead to chronic fatigue and other health issues. Stephen Bartlett and Jessie Inchauspé then discuss a new Diary of a CEO initiative called The Daughter Connection. They have turned questions from the Diary of a CEO into cards that are available online. These cards are meant to facilitate vulnerability and connection between people. Stephen shares that he feels a heightened sense of connection with his podcast guests after their conversations because they share real-life stories. He picks 4 cards from the deck and asks Jessie to pick 2. The 2 questions she picks are, what is one thing you regret not saying to somebody and why didn't you say it? And tell me something you have never told anyone before. Jessie shares that the first question is from Nick Jones, the founder of her house. She says that she wishes she spent more time talking to the surgeon that operated on her. Jessie appreciates the surgeon's work, especially as he took great care with her scars. She reflects on the fact that she could still thank the surgeon by writing a letter, as he is alive and well. For the second question, Jessie reveals that recently she spoke to her father on the phone and sensed that he was sad. She wishes she could do something to help him feel happier. Stephen asks Jessie if she has a suspicion why her father might be sad, and she shares that she thinks life is tough on him right now, and it's a chronic feeling. Jessie wonders what the psychological nutrient missing is for people who seem grumpy or sad as they age. Is it connection or a sense of purpose? Jessie mentions that most men lack tools about expression, opening up and vulnerability, Stephen loves having conversations about vulnerable topics because they are medicinal. He thinks that asking random questions from cards and removing the agenda from the questions makes it easier for people to open up. Then, Stephen picks a card and reads the question out loud. The question asks what he would say to the person he cherished most in life if they were to die the following day, and he has a 60-second phone call with them. Stephen responds that he communicated with that person a lot, so he would thank them and tell them how he feels about them. Jessie then talks about her 2 books, Glucose Revolution and Goddess Method. Glucose Revolution is all about the science, stories, and backstory of glucose, whereas the Goddess Method is a 4-week guide with actionable items. It includes recipes, things to do, and what to eat to get started, making it an incredible book for those who want to start eating healthily. Stephen recommends people read Jessie's books and mentions how reading Glucose Revolution helped him understand the significance of glucose. Jessie Inchauspé explains how she founded the company The Farmer's Dog, which creates healthy and personalized pet food. She describes how the company saw a gap in the market for high quality and nutritional pet food and decided to address it. Inchauspé explains that in the pet food industry, there is a lack of regulation, which leads to many low quality and unhealthy products being sold. He states, "We're taking fresh whole food ingredients and we're really making sure that everything is balanced and that everything is good for your dog and that there's enough of each ingredient so that you don't have to add anything else." The Farmer's Dog creates personalized and customized meal plans for each individual pet based on their breed, age, weight, and activity level. Inchauspé emphasizes the importance of understanding that every dog is unique and has different dietary needs. She states, "Every dog is different and you have to respect that. You can't just make one food for all dogs." In added details, Inchauspé describes how the company has been growing and expanding. She mentions that they recently raised $39 million in funding to help with their expansion plans. They have also received positive feedback from customers who have noticed significant improvements in their pet's health after switching to the Farmer's Dog. Check out the full podcast by clicking the link in the description below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of the Pod Slice.